The recording is live, and I'd like to ask the commissioners to please mute yourself to avoid feedback when you're not speaking.
Okay, well, good evening, and thank you everyone for joining us for our first virtual Safety Commission meeting tonight. For the record, I am Tuere Faola, and I will be chairing this meeting tonight. So the time is 6:01 p.m. on July 15th, 2020, and I would like to call this meeting of the Safety Commission to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, members of the Safety Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in council chambers. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, eComment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to eComment at www.chulavistaca.gov/boards. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow all the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-348-8056 and engineering staff will assist you. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Cervantes.
Sorry, present.
Commissioner Faola.
Present.
Commissioner Francisco.
Present.
Commissioner Heidinger.
Present.
Commissioner Munoz.
Present.
Commissioner Orso Delgado.
Present.
And Commissioner Marroquin is absent.
Okay. So with that, I would now like to call for us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Public comments is the section of the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear.
Will staff please display the public comment and start the timer?
Paul, your screen is covered.
Okay. The commenting period for public comments is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments?
I did not see anything.
I didn't see in the link either, but I believe we were sent comments in advance.
Okay, in that case, I did review it.
So everyone has had enough time to review the comments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was able to review most of the comments. Seems like it was all positive.
Okay. Okay. Well, Secretary Picardo, would you please announce for the record the number of comments received?
There were no comments received via e-comment for public comments.
Okay. All right. All right. The next item on the agenda is item number 1, and this is for the resolution of the Safety Commission of the City of Chula Vista approving a lane reduction on 3rd Avenue between North Glover Avenue and E Street from 4 lanes to 2 lanes and installing angled parking on the northeast side of the roadway as a pilot study to be reversed should traffic volumes require, future traffic volumes require. So I believe staff has a presentation.
Yes, we do.
Will staff please share the presentation?
See the presentation? So, so for this item, we are proposing a pilot study to reduce the lane count.
This volume is very low.
Paul,
Sorry?
your volume is really low.
Oh,
Yeah.
Was it low before? Can you hear me now?
The volume is low for me as well.
Can you hear me?
That's better, much better.
Great. Okay. So item number 1, as I mentioned, is a proposed lane reduction on 3rd Avenue from North Glover Avenue to E Street from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. And this is the segment in this item. North Glover's on the north side and E Street is on the south end. As you can see, between D Street and E Street, immediately to the east is Frederica Manor, just to give you a sense for where in town this is. This is in the northwestern portion of the city. Here is sort of a perspective view. And some background information on this. Staff has gone out there on 3 occasions to observe the traffic volume counts and determined that in over 3 years, the volume has been sufficiently low to accommodate having only 2 lanes of traffic in each, so 1 lane in each direction. We had done 2 along North Glover Avenue to Seavale Street, and then 1 in 2019 between D Street and E Street. The posted speed limit for this entire segment is 35 miles per hour, and the general plan classifies it as a 4-lane commercial boulevard. The collisions in the past 5 years has primarily been related to DUI or a parked vehicle. So there is nothing associated with turning movements. And it may be cut off on your slide, I apologize, but on the bottom it also says that in the recently adopted active transportation plan, this segment is also planned to have Class 2 bike lanes. So here's one of the options for your consideration. The top half is the existing layout. The bottom half is the proposed layout with option 1. There are 2 options for your consideration tonight. Both of them include angled parking on the easterly curb line, but option 1 includes a 2-way turn lane down the center of the street, whereas option 2, which you'll see shortly, includes bike lanes instead of the 2-way turn lane. This is the second segment. So the previous segment was from Glover to Seavale, and this segment is from D Street to E Street. Again, this is only with the 2-way turn lane option. Now this is the option 2 with the bike lanes instead of the 2-way turn lane. The parking arrangement is exactly the same as option 1. The only difference being the 2-way turn lane is now replaced with a bike lane in each side. This is what would be the equivalent of a Class 2 bikeway, which is consistent with the active transportation plan. This segment is the Glover to Seavale segment, and this segment is D Street to E Street. You may note that there is a missing segment between Seavale and D Street. This is quite small, and it is very similar to the proposed layout from D Street to E Street. So the recommendation in the end is that Safety Commission adopt a resolution that approves the lane reduction from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, includes the angled parking along the easterly curb line, and that the selected option of either a 2-way left turn lane or Class 2 bike lanes be incorporated on the segment of 3rd Avenue between North Glover and E Street. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Okay, I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the Safety Commission deliberates. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure any new comments appear.
Vice Chair, prior
Yes.
to public comment, the commissioners may ask staff clarifying questions at your discretion, after which we could have public comment and then deliberation.
Okay. Do we have any clarifying comments, I guess, before we go into public comment from staff or Commissioner Heidinger? Oh, you're actually still on mute.
Yes, I would like to ask if there were any safety stats. What are the safety stats on that? You know, accidents, whatever, in that stretch of land. Typically, we get those stats when we're doing speed changes, but
So the collisions there were 3 collisions over the past 5 years, ending at the end of 2019. So from the beginning of 2015 to the end of 2019, there were 3 collisions along the entire segment.
and another question, is there a 2-way left turn lane in any of that segment now?
For a portion of the segment, there is.
Which portion was that? I didn't see it.
I believe it's by Seavale Street.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Orso.
I have a question, Paul. Did you, was there a reason that you consider the angle parking and not the parallel parking, and with the idea that maybe with the parallel parking, you could have the 2-way left lane and the bike lanes?
Yes, we were actually asked by primarily Frederica Manor, but we also notified adjacent businesses in the area, and there wasn't any objection to including the angled parking. It was allowing us to gain another couple parking spaces in order to increase for serving the parking demand in the area.
And the reason I was asking the question, I recently started biking, so I would love to see more bike lanes, but I also think that, you know, that middle lane to make left turns is quite necessary. So I was trying to see if we could have both.
Understood. I would say that in terms of the current layout, if we were to do a parallel parking arrangement instead of angled parking, I'm not quite sure if we would meet the minimum width of a 2-way turn lane. We may. We can check on that.
Thank you.
So this is Bill. So I wanted to jump in just real quick on that one as well. So part of it too is the Frederica Manor people really did like the angle parking. There's a lot of, you know, it's an elderly community. We have a lot of visitors that are elderly. They don't really like parallel parking as much as the angle parking. So that was kind of a, you know, one thing we were looking at. And one thing, as Paul mentioned, I mean, we did look at the studies in terms of the number of left turns and stuff. And, you know, the volume on that street just can warrant, it can operate without the two-way left turn. Obviously, two-way left turns, a lot of people like that. But the volumes, I think, from what we had looked at, doesn't look like it would create like a significant backup issue for people waiting and stuff like that on the volumes. And remember, to the south of this on Third, you know, that's already a lane reduction section through the older part of Third Avenue. So the continuation, I don't think a lot of people, you know, we don't have a lot of volumes actually turning up Third. There's some, but it's already a reduced section to the south. So I just wanted to note that.
Commissioner Cervantes.
Paul or Bill, are there any adjoining bike routes that would benefit from adding the bike lanes at that point on Third Avenue?
There is no adjoining to the south, and I don't think there is to the west as well.
Yeah, in the future, there are going to be bike lanes on, I believe, on F Street going all the way to the Bayfront.
That is correct.
All right.
Or, I mean, to the south, there's intermittent lanes, I think, through the older, through the area there, but a lot of that's shared, and it's, you know, with the reduced sections, it's more of a shared situation. But again, speeds are lower. There's bulb outs, curbs, stuff like that in the older part of town. So.
And just a just a correction. There is a bike lane, Class 2, to the west across 4th Avenue.
And then Commissioner Munoz and then Heidinger afterwards.
I have a question. With this reduction, lane reduction possibly, will it affect any of the bus stops located by the manor?
We don't propose to move any bus stops with this.
I understand, but will it affect it with a new angle parking or anything like that?
Oh, we would accommodate the bus stops as they're currently positioned, so we can stripe in transitions to allow for the buses to not interfere with angled parking cars.
Okay, that was my concern with the elderly coming out in and out of there, taking the bus possibly.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to comment that probably the closest nice bike lanes will be on Broadway someday. But when I bike through that area going north or south, I used 4th Avenue. I wouldn't go on 3rd through that area there. But a question I had for staff was, I'm looking at your plan view here of the lanes and whatnot. Are those the scale? It seems like those lanes are really wide for the vehicles. They're just kind of like little vehicles in the middle of a really wide lane.
Yeah, it's quite schematic. We would propose an 11-foot lane.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I mean, is that what's shown there? I mean, I can't read the fine print, but like you said, it's just a schematic.
That's correct. I am just confirming. I think that would be to scale if you're referring to the bike lane layout.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, what I was asking, what I'm driving at really is that is there any reason why we can't have the two-way left turn lanes, the parking and the bike lanes, if we scrunched up the traffic lanes a little?
We wouldn't be able to gain enough for a two-way left turn lane, but we would be able to get a wider bike lane to allow for more buffer space if we were to narrow the travel lanes. So we can take it to 10 feet in terms of the travel lane width. That's not in the resolution. So if the lane reduction is approved, we can certainly finesse what lane widths would work best.
And I would just like to say that these things we were just talking about here, narrower lanes and bike lanes, are all traffic calming features in neighborhoods like this.
So, and this is Bill. So one other thing I would add is, this is primarily, we're bringing this forward right now, primarily because we're doing a big rehabilitation job on 3rd Avenue, pavement rehab job that the contractor's been awarded with a bunch of other streets. So they're not going to be here, tomorrow, but they're going to be here shortly. And, this proposal is basically all striping. So it's not like we're doing hardscape bulb outs or anything like that. So in the event, however you decide or however you want to go, It's not like it's features that would have to be that would be difficult to revise or revert or even alter to some degree in the future. So that's another bonus for this segment.
Okay.
Are there any other commissioner questions for staff on this item?
No.
Okay, so seeing none, I guess we'll now call for that 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments before we have our final deliberation. And again, commissioners, remember to refresh your screen in case any new comments appear.
Vice Chair, while we are waiting for the public comment timer and for the public to submit any final comments, if you could please note, and I've also noted it on my agenda script, for items 2, 3, and 4, there will be a staff presentation. And we missed adding the one line after staff presents, if you could ask the commission for any clarifying questions. So that is items 2, 3, and 4, and I apologize for the oversight.
Okay. Okay, the commenting period for item number 1 is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the comments submitted? Looks like there were 2 of them on the e-comment.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Lawrence, would you please announce for the record the number of comments received in favor and opposed to the item?
14 comments were received in favor via email and e-comment.
Okay. Okay. Do the commissioners have any further comments or questions after reading the public comments, or any other questions for deliberation with staff? Okay, seeing none, can I have someone who would like to make a motion?
I guess I do have a question. What
Okay.
exactly, I didn't read the resolution because I don't like warehouses that much, but
Yeah.
what exactly are we voting on in terms of option 1 and option 2?
I'm going to leave that for Paul or Bill to respond to. Is it left to the staff's discretion for option 1 or 2, or is there one specific?
Option 1 or 2 is on the commission's discretion. However you'd like to make the motion is how we have proposed it to you. So option 1, as a reminder, is the two-way left turn lane, and option 2 is the bike lanes.
Okay, I would like to move to
I was just going to say, Paul, do we have a preferred alternative? I think our preferred alternative is 2, is the city staff's preferred alternative. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was option 1 or option 2 staff's preferred alternative?
It was option 2, the one without the left turn, two-way left turn lane.
Okay.
Correct.
I will so move to approve staff's recommendation for option 2.
Second.
Okay.
Good question. I thought option 2 was with the bike lanes and option 1 was with the two-way turn lane. You want to clarify that?
That is correct. Option 2 is the bike lanes.
Okay.
So we have both a motion and a second to approve staff's recommendation with option 2, which is the bike lanes. And Secretary, I believe, are we ready to do a roll call vote now?
Commissioner Cervantes,
Yay. I go in favor of option 2.
Commissioner Faola,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
You're on mute.
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Heidinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Munoz,
Yes.
Commissioner Orso Delgado,
Yes.
Chair Mardoquin is absent.
Okay. Sorry, Secretary, am I indicating if the motion passes or?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. So that motion is approved by the commission. So now we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, item number 2, which is the resolution of the Safety Commission of the City of Chula Vista approving the installation of speed cushions on 2nd Avenue between Moss Street and Maple Street. And I believe we also have a staff presentation on this.
Yes, we do.
And just for the record, item number 1 did pass with a vote of 6-0. Thank you.
So item 2 this evening is proposed speed cushions on 2nd Avenue between Moss Street and Naples Street. This is the segment highlighted in the yellow dashed line. Please bear in mind that this is somewhat related to the recent road closures on Moss Street and Alpine Avenue. And you can see this indicated by the red X's towards the east side of your screen. So what staff has observed as a result of the road closure, and I should note that this road closure was to accommodate the site for fire station number 9, the new fire station in the area. And staff did some volume counts before to observe a baseline for what the volume was on 2nd Avenue. And we received some complaints from residents who were concerned about the increased volume, speed of vehicles going on 2nd Avenue subsequent to the road closure. And so as you can see here, there has been a substantial increase in the traffic volume on 2nd Avenue. So one of the proposed recommendations that we have, aside from signage, is to include speed cushions on this segment of 2nd Avenue. The red area here incorporates where we would propose to have speed cushions. We're still working out specifically where we would propose and how many we would propose. We had an initial proposal just to illustrate what we can do in terms of positioning, but we're still working out the specifics. This is an example of a speed cushion. As you can see, it differs from a speed hump because there are gaps where emergency vehicles or vehicles of sufficiently wide can travel over the speed cushion with minimal impact to their speed. So this won't affect ambulances, fire trucks, that sort of thing. And they extend to a few feet from the curb line, so bypass is difficult for normal passenger vehicles. This is just another example, and you can see the fire truck straddling the speed cushion. This is an example of one in San Diego area that is asphalt. We would propose one that would be rubberized, similar to this graphic here. And so in summary, we recommend that the Safety Commission adopt a resolution for the installation of speed cushions on 2nd Avenue between Moss and Maple Street. And that ends my presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open it up if there are any comments or questions from the commissioners to staff. Okay, Heidinger, Commissioner Heidinger.
I recall, maybe not correctly, that we had an item before the commission some time ago for I Street, close to Hilltop High. And as I recall, and again, I may be wrong, it was turned down. And I was wondering if you could, Paul, if you could remember, what exactly are the difference between these two cases?
Chair, Commissioner Heidinger, my recollection is that that was for East Whitney and East Georgina, which is adjacent to Hilltop. Those segments were actually approved for safety. For speed cushions.
Did I mention I'm getting old?
Do we have any other comments or questions for staff from the commissioners? Okay. So if we have no further questions, I believe now we'll call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item before the Safety Commission deliberates. Again, remember to refresh your screen to ensure that any new comments appear in the e-comment tool. Okay. The commenting period for this item is now closed. Florence, unless you see comments, I don't believe we have any, but if you'd like to announce any for the record.
We received 6 comments via email, which I forwarded to you
Okay.
just recently. One of the comments was in favor.
Okay. Have the commissioners had well, I just saw the email actually. The commissioners need more time to view or read the comments that came in. Commissioner Cervantes, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I'd like a couple more minutes. I'm like on number 3 right now. I'm reading.
Okay.
One's Florence, Miss sentence.
Yes. Paul, I don't know if we need to reset the timer, but maybe we can give 2 more minutes to the commissioners to review the comments that came in via email.
I think the timer is for the public to submit
Okay.
comments. So however long you need.
Okay, perfect. So we'll take a few more minutes here.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Would the commissioners like to have any discussion questions after reading the comments?
For those of you who, did everyone get to see the comments, get to read them? Okay.
Yes, I was able to read it.
Right.
I do have a question. One of the comments was to close the street. Was there any consideration by the staff to do that?
Could you please clarify, are you referring to 2nd Avenue being closed?
No, like block 1 end of the street.
No, staff does not consider that, and we would not recommend that given that it is a pass-through street for emergency access. So if emergency response were to respond to any residences on that segment, then it would be best to have them have full access to that segment.
There was another comment, Paul, about considering concrete over rubber. Is there's a reason concrete wouldn't be considered that you could maybe clarify?
It's primarily associated with the ease of installation and how quickly we can deploy it. Concrete is, I have not heard of such a situation where there would be a concrete speed hump on an asphalt pavement road. So that's not advisable, but the rubberized material has been proven to perform the same as an asphalt pavement one would.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, I would also include, we could install it quickly. Now, realize, the street's only been closed since earlier this year. So, some of the pass-through traffic, I think, is people that are still, maybe going out, haven't been going out because of COVID, and now they're going out and they're, hitting a dead end, not reading the signs and going down 2nd. I don't know that it's going to continue to be allowed. It's not like a faster shortcut really, but the thought is, we can deploy the rubber, see how it goes, see if the volumes change at all. And if it doesn't, the next time we're paving the street, we would probably end up putting in the asphalt speed cushions in lieu of the rubber. But the rubber should last several years, it's pretty durable. So that was part of the thought process as well is, there might be some normalization here down the road too, where they may not even be needed. But at this point, there is enough of an incident that, we the city feel it's important to address the concern.
Okay, that's good. There was a comment from someone also asking if you would reconsider just paving the road. So it seems that could be a potential in the future, depending on the results of the rubber and the changes in volume and speed.
The paving would be dictated obviously on the pavement condition, index, and the condition of the road's actually pretty good right now. So it's not like, oh, we get out there and pave it just because of the speed cushions. I mean, we
Okay.
could deploy to do the asphalt cushions on top of the road, but like Paul said, that would take actually more time and effort, and it would just be easier to do the rubber initially. But obviously, if it's long term, the next time it does come up for rehabilitation, the speed cushions would be in asphalt. So.
Okay.
And just for everyone's information, the speed cushions are good they have a warranty for 10 years.
That's great.
Also, I have a question. Signage for the speed cushions, one on each side, and how many were you planning on putting out?
How many speed cushions?
Yes, and how many signage?
The signs are dictated by the MUTCD, so we will do exactly as it says, which is an advanced warning sign and a sign at the hump. As far as the number, we're looking between 1 or 2.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, I am seeing none. So if I could call for a motion on this item.
I move we approve the resolution.
A second.
Thank you. And then if we could have the secretary do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Yes.
Commissioner Faola,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
I agree.
Commissioner Heidinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Munoz,
Yes.
Commissioner Orso Delgado,
Yes.
Chair Marroquin is absent.
Okay, so our motion passes 6-0 with 1 being absent. And I'm getting a lot of feedback on my end. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, item number 3, is our presentation from the police department on the latest traffic accidents and citations.
I will hand this off to Officers Wale.
No. Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. It's good to see everybody again. I know it's been quite a while. I'm going to do a quick presentation documenting the numbers involved in traffic collisions and traffic citations. Now, these numbers have been greatly affected by the pandemic, as everyone knows, and the citations in particular, starting in May, have skyrocketed again due to some of the lack of enforcement that was going on during this time. Starting with traffic collisions in February, we documented 150 traffic collisions, and that number went down slightly in March to 123 traffic collisions. After implementing the stay-at-home order, fewer vehicles were on the roadway, and we saw the numbers decrease again in April and in May with 97 and 96 traffic collisions respectively. Some of the roadways were very unfamiliar to us because of the lack of cars that were on the roadway. I know driving into work and getting around town is a lot easier and a lot more convenient, not having as many vehicles out there. And I'm happy to see that that also turned into fewer traffic collisions because we don't want anyone getting hurt. Traffic citations in February ended up being 655 traffic citations. That includes both moving violations, violations that consist of things that contribute to collisions, such as speeding, running red lights, stop signs. And March, that number went down to 514. And then with the stay-at-home order, with the vehicles out on the roadway, we saw in April the number dropped dramatically to only 138 citations for the month. Once the city and the started to reopen, we saw a big increase in that number of citations. And as you can see there, it jumped up to almost 1,100 citations. I'm sure many of you saw on the news that motorists were traveling at higher speeds, particularly the freeway. CHP had a huge increase in the number of vehicles that were traveling in excess of 100 miles per hour. Here in the city of Chula Vista, we also experienced that phenomenon. Olympic Parkway and Telegraph, East H, these roads were all, we saw an increase in people driving at excessive speeds. I know on Olympic Parkway, I was involved in several enforcement operations that focused on vehicles traveling at 100 miles per hour plus, and unfortunately, we had quite a few customers. So a big number increase in May, and we're hoping to kind of get out ahead of it and remind people through an increase in enforcement that everybody needs to obey the rules so that we have a safer commute. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have regarding that. Or anything else that is traffic related, but that's all I have at this point.
Thank you. Commissioners, if you have any questions. Commissioner Cervantes.
Yeah, Officer Zwale, were there any fatalities during the time that city was shut down?
Unfortunately, yes. I believe, I don't have the exact number, but I believe there was 2 to 3 fatalities during that time.
Thank you.
And to comment further on it, I believe that ones that I'm aware of were pedestrian related. I don't remember the last non-pedestrian related fatality we've had. This has been a big focus with us. The California Office of Traffic Safety has really focused our enforcement period on pedestrian fatalities, and we've done our best to limit the number of fatalities overall, but specifically addressing the pedestrian fatalities.
Commissioner Francisco, I believe you had a question or comment.
Yeah, I had a question on Telegraph Canyon. I noticed during the shutdown, there were a lot of motorcycle traffic, excess speeding, and motorcycles doing wheelies on the road. Is Chula Vista doing any kind of special enforcement to reduce that kind of behavior?
We are. The police department has received grant funding from the California Office of Traffic Safety, and one of the required operations that we engage in is motorcycle enforcement. Most of the time, motorcyclists are using East H, Olympic Parkway, and Telegraph, like you pointed out. They are increasing their speeds and unfortunately are driving in a dangerous fashion. We have the entire traffic unit who's equipped on motorcycles and one takeaway vehicle who is concentrating on those particular violations. So we do our best to address that. It's rather consistent. We're trying to enforce the motorcycle operations about once every 2 weeks. Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit and the stay-at-home order was being enforced, we took more of an educational, hands-off approach to enforcement. But we saw the huge increase in the dangerous driving behaviors, and it unfortunately kind of thrust us back into the enforcement aspect a little bit sooner than we had hoped. But we're back in it now, and we're working 2 to 3 specialized enforcement projects a week, including this evening. The traffic unit is out and enforcing what they call primary collision factor enforcement, looking for moving violations such as speed, red lights, and dangerous driving such as wheelies and if you want to call them donuts, things like that. So they're actually working tonight until 9 o'clock, and they've been doing that since 4 p.m. Another one is scheduled tomorrow for distracted driving. And this is all a part of the Office of Traffic Safety grant-funded position.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's really good. Any other comments from our commissioners? Oh, yes, Pedro.
Hi, officer. One of the things that my neighbors keep telling me, and I noticed it a little bit, towards the end of Olympic Parkway, it seems that they've been using it as a area to drag race.
Are we talking about the end of Olympic Parkway
Yes, sir.
near Woosty Road?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not aware of that. Nobody's brought it to my attention, and nobody in the traffic unit is talking about that. If you like, you can reach out to me later after this and provide some details about it so that we can try to put together some type of operation to address those issues.
Thank you, sir.
Otay Lakes and Lake Crest, we're well aware of people, sadly, doing donuts in the middle of the intersection. We've had some intel on that. We've addressed that with our graveyard units who are working from 10 o'clock at night until 8 in the morning. And we've had some concerted efforts with shutting that down. And it's my understanding that they've made a couple enforcement stops and impounds on those vehicles, which once the vehicle is impounded for some type of reckless driving, like if it's a motorcycle doing wheelies or a vehicle doing donuts, the vehicle is impounded for 30 days, which hopefully puts a dent in their spirits and they choose not to do that again. But I wasn't aware of the drag race. We have special programs that address that. Most of the traffic unit is trained in modified vehicles, performance vehicles, and I'd like to hear more about that so that we can address that issue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is Bill. Justin, we should chat with Eddie and Paul, offline, about possibly, looking at putting up some cameras and stuff. We've been deploying cameras on some of our intersections and stuff, but that might be a tool in hotspot areas. I don't know that we've really coordinated on that a ton in the past. We've focused a lot more on the pedestrian areas and within the western side, but that might be something to think about.
I agree. I think that would be a wonderful tool to use to make things safer for everyone.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, officer. Don't believe we have any other comments from commissioners. So I believe we still also have a public comment period on this item. So we'll allow for another 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Secretary Pickardall, I don't know that I saw any comments, but if there were any, could you please announce for the record the number of comments received in favor or opposed on this item?
There were no comments received.
Okay, great. Okay, so next on the agenda, assuming there are no further comments or questions from the commissioners, is item number 4, and this is a presentation from staff on a CIP update on pedestrian and bikeway safety programs.
Yes, hi, thanks. This item 4, I typically will do some highlights so that we don't have to run through every project, but please feel free to ask me about any of the projects in your agenda packet. I'm sorry, just trying to, here we go. One of the highlights is the South Bay Bus Rapid Transit. The segment in the guideway is now active west of Heritage Road. So the full guideway along the Bus Rapid Transit corridor is now complete as of the week of June 15th. They're still finishing some paving and striping operations along the corridor, but the bus operation is now fully operational. The bike lanes on Broadway project will be starting to move shortly. We had some contract negotiation with the contractor, and that is now wrapping up. And so construction will be proceeding on this in the next couple weeks. Also, I should note that the 3rd Avenue Streetscape project is on schedule for completion in roughly October timeframe. Now I'll just highlight the new projects as a result of the recently approved capital improvement program for fiscal year 21. Some of these are rather typical projects that come up each year. So for instance, this is the ADA pedestrian curb ramp project that upgrades everything to current ADA standards. There's the sidewalk replacement project that covers situations like this where there's sidewalks heaving, that sort of thing. And this is a new project that's coming out of the traffic group. We're going to find some targeted locations for installing radar feedback signs, primarily on arterial roadways. So this is a good opportunity to control speeds. For example, on like L Street, we've been receiving a lot of concern from the community about speeding. So this will be a mechanism to help traffic calm in that area. This is a project at Rice Elementary. So this is 4th and Westby. There's an existing enhanced crosswalk with beacons that we will be upgrading to a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And this means that it will be more of a traffic signal type operation as opposed to a warning to the drivers that a pedestrian is present. It will actually stop the drivers. So if a driver violates it, it will be like running a red light. This is similar to the installation that's further south on south of 4th and Anita. And then I should mention the local road safety plan. In the staff comments portion, I'll bring up what we would like to do with respect to having representation from this commission on the committee. But this plan is now in progress, and we are now analyzing a lot of the collision data that we've been collecting and trying to run some statistics and that sort of thing. And we also will have a new project that updates a lot of the expired speed surveys in the city. This project is sort of impacted by COVID, but not to the extent that you may imagine, because primarily when we do a speed survey, we want the traffic to be free flowing. So it would be good to see the road more wide open. However, we do understand that overall speeds have been increasing. So we're trying to bear that in mind before diving in and doing a lot of speed surveys right now. This is the F Street Promenade project that's currently under study, and then the East H Street project for sidewalks. And those were the main highlights that I wanted to bring your attention. But again, feel free to ask me about any of them.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Are there any questions from our commissioners? Commissioner Heidinger, and then afterwards, Commissioner Cervantes.
I have a question about the VRT. Transit through there quite often on my bicycle. And I've noticed that, like, yeah, lots of stuff's getting done. They're striping all over the place. There's a curbs that need to be still finished, and I think the landscaping's all done. But the only thing that hasn't been done almost nowhere is the bicycle lanes. Are they gonna like wrap it all up and then drive away to contractors and not do the bicycle lanes? Who's on top of that?
The striping contractor is typically the last operation to come through. So from what I can recall, there are bike lanes on the plans, so they will be included.
Yes, there are bike lanes on the plans, and but they've been striping, all along. All the traffic lanes are striped. All the bus, some complex striping going on. So I'm sort of getting the impression that they're gonna do whether they're gonna do the bike lanes last or not do them at all. So.
I'm not aware of any removal of the bike lanes on that segment, so my thinking is it's towards the end.
Yeah, so this is Bill. It's going to be towards the end because the work that they did was they had to widen to one side, push traffic over to get the bus lanes in the middle. They're still doing the outside construction, which is what you're seeing primarily a lot on the south side. But you can't, and so there's a lot of shared bike lanes now because it's narrow lanes, one lane, that kind of thing. And there's just no way you can get the bike lanes in there at this point until they finish the widening portion, which is in the general travel lanes. But yeah, the bike lanes, they'll be there. It's just we got to have the room to put them in, and until the widening is completed, there's no room.
Who exactly is overseeing this? Is this a Caltrans operation or a City of Chula Vista?
No, this is a Sandag project, so Sandag's overseeing it, but we're providing oversight of the contract as well, since it's in our right of way. So they do the construction administration, they do the inspection, but we're also out there inspecting them to make sure that they're following the plans and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Commissioner Cervantes.
Yeah, Paul, is there an estimated time of completion for this rapid bus transit on East Palomar?
My understanding, the last I heard, I will actually get an update tomorrow. So unfortunately, I don't have the latest Grace information, but it should be by the end of the month that all these final items should be wrapped up.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like it's a long ways ago. Yeah, I thought it was in July it was going to be complete, but it doesn't look like it to me. It's going to be done.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there were some significant delays on this segment. It had a lot of utility relocations on the north side that we were all aware of, and told them we probably should start this segment first versus the other two that you started. But that's the way the chips rolled. It was their call to do it. The utility relocations, just so you guys are aware, take forever. I mean, dealing with SDG&E is a nightmare. Just to get them to come and do an electric turnoff takes months. So yeah, there were some serious delays with regards to the utility relocations that really pushed out the entire project. But at this point, if you drive through, you'll see a lot of the work left is fairly minor, and it should wrap up pretty quick. I'm not holding out for a month. I think it's probably going to be sometime more like early September, but we'll see.
Well, I can say that I think the bus lanes are all done. I mean, the buses are running up and down through the middle and whatnot, and it looks like there's just some, like you said, some widening going on still in some places there where they're rebuilding the curbs and so forth. So
correct. It's all staged. I mean, since it's limited right of way, you widen to the north, then they built the bus lanes in the middle. Now they're finishing up the widening on the south. So it's I mean, that's it.
Do we have any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I believe we are also going to open up this item for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before final deliberation. And again, commissioners, remember to refresh your screen to ensure that any new comments appear.
I would just like to make a comment while we're waiting, and I would like to compliment the staff on a very well-run remote meeting, teleconference. Probably the best that I've been involved in anyways.
I would second that.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. I do not believe I saw any comments, but Secretary Pickerdall, if you could announce for the record the number of comments received in favor or opposed to this item.
No comments were received.
Okay, great. And I assume, did the commissioners have any further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the election of chair and vice chair for fiscal year 2021. I know that we saw some emails earlier that we had done this earlier in the year, but that we need to do it again at this meeting. So we'll officially, I suppose, put forward, are there any nominations for chair? If someone would like to speak, you unmute yourself. Commissioner Marquand's not here with us, but that was what we did in the beginning of the year.
Can you refresh our memory on who nominated who back then?
I nominated Jorge.
And vice chair?
Jorge that nominated,
I feel like he nominated me.
just remembering it. Yeah.
I second that nomination. Okay.
Do we need to make a motion?
I think we need to make an official motion so that they can put it on record. So if I can have an official, is that correct, Florence? We need to have an official motion for nomination of chair to Ben
Yes.
Jorge Marquand. Okay, yes, if I can get an official nomination for a chair.
I'd like to make a motion that we maintain Chair Marupin as our chair and Commissioner Paola as the vice chair.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe now, Florence, you'll do a roll call.
Could I ask who did the second?
It's me.
Munoz.
Munoz? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Oh, we have a question from Corso.
I have a question. As I understand, the reason we're having to do this is because we want to extend the period so the new period will end when for you and Commissioner Marquand.
Hi, this is Tashar, the city clerk's office. What I understand is that you guys voted earlier in the year, but that was actually last year's nomination. And because you guys could not get a quorum, it ended up being pushed and pushed and pushed, but this is the time to vote for that in July.
And the period will run till when?
June 30th.
Till June 30th,
Great, awesome.
2021.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Hopefully we vote in person next time.
Hopefully.
Amen to that.
I don't know. I gotta say, you all look much younger on camera.
Okay, I believe we're ready for a roll call.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Yes.
Commissioner Faola,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Munoz,
Yes.
Commissioner Orso Delgado,
100% yes.
and Commissioner Mardikin is absent.
Oh, teaching me.
Okay, so the motion passes 6-0. And then our next item on the agenda is item number 6. So it was opening up for any additional commissioner comments, if anyone would like to make any.
We also need a vice chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we rolled it all into one. Okay. If I can then get another motion for vice chair and a second as well.
I'll extend my motion for Commissioner Fowler to be vice chair.
Second it.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call now.
Who was the second again? I'm sorry.
Again, Munoz.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Florence, I lumped it all into one motion.
Okay, we'll have the vote now. Cervantes,
Yes.
Commissioner Faola,
Yes, even though I'm voting for myself.
Commissioner Francisco,
Like a politician.
Commissioner Heidinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Munoz,
Yes.
Commissioner Orso Delgado,
100% yes again.
and Commissioner Mardikin is absent.
Okay, so again, this motion passes 6-0. So now on to our next item on the agenda, item number 6. So if there are any other comments from the commissioners before we move on to the final agenda item of the night.
Move on.
All right. Everybody said all that we needed to say tonight. All right. Well, our final item on the agenda is item 7, which allows if you have any comments you'd like to leave.
Yes, I have a few comments. First of all, thanks very much for your cooperation in working through this teleconference. I think it worked out nicely, and appreciate your cooperation also with the rescheduling that we had to do. And thanks to the public for participating, and for clerk and IT staff for supporting making this possible. One thing that I wanted to bring up again that I mentioned at the last meeting, but not everyone was present, was the concept of bringing up a consent agenda so we can make the most of our time together, have some items that don't necessarily need to go through presentation or commentary unless any commissioner has any questions or if the public has any questions or comments as well. So I just wanted to gauge anybody's thoughts on that or any objection on that. Does anybody have any objection to that?
Sounds like a good idea.
Great.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Awesome. Also, just to come back to the local road safety plan, I'm going to convene a committee. This was sort of delayed because of COVID, but we would like some representation from this commission at that committee. It would incorporate a lot of the stakeholders in roadway safety, such as emergency response, so PD, fire, potentially hospital in the area, that sort of thing. And so I think we discussed before about Chair Marquine participating, but I would also just like to gauge any interest or I can follow up with Chairman Marroquin as well, but
Do you need to answer now, Paul?
no, we can follow up with you later.
I would like to be on that if you'd like.
Perfect.
Okay. Is there a website up with some information or data that you might have already done, or?
We don't have a website yet. We have the data is pretty much all internal right now because we're still crunching the numbers. But eventually, yes, we're going to show basically the status of the report and all that's coming up. And then
Paul,
I'm sorry?
Paul, are you referring to the local road safety plan?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, it might be good to give an idea of what the time commitment might be. You're thinking about like 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings. What do you think that's gonna, what's that gonna look like?
That's a great point. We're looking at 3 1-hour meetings basically. So we're going to look at one that would kind of be a kickoff as well as a number crunching, and then another one to review the draft and get any commentary and input, and then another one to kind of wrap it up.
Paul, if you need anyone, I would gladly volunteer as well, since I'm not traveling right now.
Great. Okay, well, I guess Florence will be following up with you all, and we can see who we can get on the calendar to make this work. So that's great. And then last thing, besides talking about the next meeting, I was asked at the previous meeting to talk about any speed items that were being considered for the 85th percentile at the state level. So in February, AB 2121 was introduced, and it doesn't touch the 85th percentile, but it sort of changes how long existing speed surveys can be valid. So if you'd like, I can put an item on the next meeting for discussion, or if you want to have an action as a result of that item to make a recommendation to City Council, that is possible, and we can discuss at the next meeting what that would entail.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
Yes. I
Great.
think it was me that actually started that, so I'm in favor of that.
Yes, it was you, I think.
Yes.
Then, I'll plan for that in the next meeting, and what we're looking at right now tentatively is September 2nd, which is the regularly scheduled day. So we'll skip August since we're so close to the normal August meeting. And that's all I had.
That's Labor Day.
That is Labor Day. You're right. It would be whatever the actual official date would be to make that work. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're not going anywhere anyway for Labor Day.
So it would be
Oh, did you say the 2nd or the 7th?
I was thinking the 2nd, but if I'm looking correct, the 2nd is a Wednesday, so maybe it would move to the 9th. We'll work on the specifics on that. I forgot about Labor Day, so.
Paul, question, is that going to be on WebEx?
Most likely, yes.
Okay, because I'll be out of town, but I can do it online.
All right. Yeah, well, we'll be in touch once the plans firm up, but just want to give you a heads up.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Sure thing.
okay. I assume that's it then, Paul, for staff comments. Okay. Well, this has been great. It is 7:20 p.m. and so I'm adjourning the meeting until our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Safety Commission, which is not August, but I guess will to be determined either September or October of 2020 via teleconference. So this is really great seeing you guys, and wish we could do this in person. But until next time, we'll do it virtual again.
And be safe.
Likewise, and good job, Tori.
Oh, thank you.
I congratulate you.